So let us start our discussion on vibrational spectroscopy. You can see here, this is a molecule and these are the different atoms. So these atoms are vibrating along their bond axis. Okay, vibrating along their bond axis. So these vibrations, they can absorb some radiation and they can change the amplitude of vibration. Amplitude will change, the frequency will remain the same. In a molecule, atoms are constantly vibrating. The molecule can absorb a radiation and change the amplitude of vibration. So which radiation can they absorb? It's found that this radiation is in the infrared region. So this technique is called infrared spectroscopy or IR spectroscopy. Now, when molecules are vibrating or when the atoms in a molecule are vibrating, all molecules cannot absorb the infrared radiation. Okay. Earlier in electronic spectroscopy, we have seen that all molecules will absorb UV or visible radiation. But here the situation is different. Only some molecules which follow a certain condition, only they can absorb the infrared radiation. The condition is like this: the molecule should have a change in dipole moment during the vibration. So only if this condition is satisfied, the molecule will absorb the IR radiation. If this condition is not satisfied, then the molecule will not absorb the radiation. This is an important question. Describe the principle of IR spectroscopy. So this is the answer. Okay, this much will be the answer. In a molecule, atoms are constantly vibrating. The molecule can absorb IR radiation and change the amplitude of vibration. Only those molecules which have a change in dipole moment during vibration will absorb the IR radiation. That is the principle of IR spectroscopy. So molecules like carbon dioxide, water, hydrogen chloride, ammonia, etc., they can absorb IR radiation and so they are called IR active. Whereas molecules like hydrogen, nitrogen, chlorine, etc., they do not absorb IR radiation, so they are called IR inactive. So IR active and IR inactive compounds. Now when an IR active molecule vibrates, it creates an electric field, an oscillating electric field. Okay, the electric field oscillating means the electric field is continuously changing. Okay, and that change can be represented like this: it reaches a maximum, comes down to a minimum, then goes to a maximum, like that, as a wave motion. Now when the frequency of this oscillating electric field becomes equal to the frequency of the IR radiation, electric field of the IR radiation, then the IR radiation will get absorbed. Okay, so the frequency of this oscillating electric field should become equal to the frequency of the electric field of the IR radiation. Then that radiation will get absorbed. Okay, so this is the phenomenon of IR absorption. This is how the IR radiation gets absorbed. Now IR radiations, they are measured in wave numbers. Even though we use the term frequency, but actually its unit will be wave numbers, that is centimeter inverse. Okay, even though we are using the term frequency, but the unit will be centimeter inverse, that is wave number units. And the range of IR radiation is 100 to 4000 centimeter inverse. 100 to 4000 centimeter inverse. Now let us move on to what are the different types of vibrations possible in a molecule. Okay. Generally, a molecule can have two types of vibrations. One is called stretching vibration, the other is called bending vibration. Stretching and bending. Now, stretching can further be divided into two parts, two categories. One is called symmetric stretching, the other is called anti-symmetric stretching. Symmetric and anti-symmetric stretching. So these are the types of vibrations: symmetric stretching, anti-symmetric stretching, and bending. We can see these vibrations. Okay, in the following slides, I will show you some animations where you can actually see how these vibrations take place. The number of possible vibrations for a molecule can be calculated if the number of atoms are known. For example, if a molecule contains n number of atoms, then how many vibrations will it have? If it is a linear molecule, it will have 3n minus 5 vibrations. If it is a non-linear molecule, it will have 3n minus 6 vibrations. So 3n minus 5 vibrations and 3n minus 6 vibrations, depending on whether it is linear or non-linear. Let us take some examples and explain and see these vibrations. We will start with the molecule carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a linear molecule. It has 3 atoms. So it will follow the 3n minus 5 rule. There are 4 vibrations possible for carbon dioxide. Okay, 4 vibrations are there. Let us see these vibrations. These are the different vibrations: symmetric stretching, anti-symmetric stretching, out of plane bending, and in plane bending. Now you can see here symmetric stretching. So look at this. The oxygens, they come close at the same time, they go apart at the same time. Symmetric. Both are symmetric. Anti-symmetric, when one oxygen comes closer, the other goes apart. That is anti-symmetric. Bending. Bending means the distance between carbon and oxygen is the same, but only thing the position is changing. Okay, like a bird flapping its wings. Like a bird flapping its wings. Okay. Now this is out of plane, means it is perpendicular to the plane of the screen. In plane means it is inside the plane of the screen. Okay. The vibration is the same, only thing the direction is slightly different. So these are the 4 different vibrations of carbon dioxide molecule. Now my question is, which of these will be IR active and which of these are IR inactive? So it is found that carbon dioxide symmetric stretching is IR inactive, whereas all the others, anti-symmetric and both the bendings, are IR active. The question is why? Why is it like that? Why the symmetric stretching is IR inactive? Why the others are IR active? Actually, the reason is change in dipole moment during vibration. So in these 3, there is a change in dipole moment during vibration, and so it is IR active. Whereas in this one, there is no change in the dipole moment during vibration, so it is IR inactive. Let us see that in detail once again. So this is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide Carbon has a delta plus. Oxygen is electronegative, so it pulls the electron cloud towards itself. So it has a slight negative charge. So carbon has a slight positive charge. There are two dipoles. One is in the right direction, the other is in the left direction. You can name it as Dr and Dl. D standing for dipole moment. And in carbon dioxide, these are equal. Dr is equal to Dl, no net dipole moment. Okay, net dipole moment is 0. Both are equal and opposite in direction. So it cancels off, no net dipole. Now this is the case when the molecule is stationary. Suppose it is not vibrating. The oxygens are sitting at the bond length position. In that case, this is what happens at that case. No net dipole moment. Now let us assume that it is vibrating in the symmetric stretching. It is undergoing symmetric stretching. So what will happen? These oxygens will come closer at the same time and it will go apart at the same time. Okay. So you get something like this and you get something like this. So in these two conditions, what is happening to these values? Okay. Now these values will change, but its direction remains the same. Magnitude also, both are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So what happens? There is no net change in the dipole moment during vibration. Okay, when you take this case, there is a value to the right side, there is a value to the left side, both are equal in magnitude, they are in opposite direction, so they get cancelled. No change in net dipole moment during vibration. That is why symmetric stretching does not absorb IR radiation. Let us take the case of anti-symmetric stretching. What is happening there? So here, when this oxygen comes closer, this oxygen goes apart. Then this will come closer, this will go apart. That is the vibration. So you can see this is one extreme, this is another extreme. So what will happen here? Here you can see the left dipole magnitude and the right dipole magnitude are not equal. Okay, they are not equal. And so what will happen? There is a resultant dipole. Okay, there is a change in the net dipole moment during vibration. So antisymmetric stretching will absorb IR radiation. Okay. There is a change in the net dipole moment during vibration. Coming to bending, what will happen in bending? Now this is the case of carbon dioxide. Bending means what happens? This carbon goes up, this oxygen comes down. That is one position. Second position, oxygen goes up, carbon comes down. That is another position. Okay. So this is one position, this is another position. In these two, what is happening? Dr and Dl are equal in magnitude, but the direction has changed. Dipole moment is a vector quantity. So what will happen? When it bends, the direction changes. There is a resultant vector in this direction. Resultant dipole is in this direction. And that dipole has a value. It is not zero. It has a value, and that value is changing also. Okay, when it is in this position, there is a value. When it comes down, it becomes 0. Again, it changes in the opposite direction. Okay, so there is a change in the resultant dipole moment during vibration. That is why carbon dioxide bending vibration will absorb IR radiations. There is a change in the resultant dipole during vibration. So these are the different types of vibrations of carbon dioxide and why they are absorbing IR radiations. So one question, sketch the vibrations of carbon dioxide. Which of them are IR active? Why? Sketch the vibrations. So this is how you can sketch. This is there in your notes, or you will be getting a textbook soon. So it will be there in that. And antisymmetric stretching and both bending vibrations are IR active because of change in dipole moment during vibration. That is the answer. Now when you draw the figure, you have to be careful. This arrow should be clearly shown. Okay, arrow should be clearly shown. Otherwise there is no meaning. Simply if you write O double bond C double bond O, there is no meaning. Only when you put the arrow, it becomes a vibration. Moving to another compound, water. Again, it has three atoms. Three atoms are there. So capital N is equal to 3. But there is a small difference. Water is non-linear. It has a bent structure. So it follows 3n minus 6 rule. There are three vibrations. These are the three vibrations. This is anti-symmetric stretching. This is symmetric stretching. Bend. Now here, which all vibrations will be IR active? Which all vibrations will absorb IR radiation? It is found that all vibrations are IR active. Why? Because all vibrations produce a change in the dipole moment during vibration. How is that? Now let us look at the structure of water. This is water. So there is a dipole in one direction, there is a dipole in another direction, D1 and D2, and the resultant dipole D1 plus 2, that is in this direction. Okay. Since this has a bent structure and is a vector quantity, so there will be a resultant dipole in this direction. Now assume symmetric stretching to take place. What will happen? This is one condition, this is another condition. In both cases, there is a resultant dipole in this direction. The value of that resultant dipole changes. When these hydrogens come closer, this value, the magnitude changes. When they go apart, the magnitude changes. So the magnitude of the resultant vector changes continuously when vibration occurs. There is a change in the resultant dipole moment during vibration. So this will absorb IR radiation. Again, let us consider anti-symmetric stretching. Same case, two dipoles, there is a resultant dipole, and let us consider anti-symmetric stretching. So what happens in anti-symmetric stretching? This is one case, this is another case. In both cases, there is a resultant vector, and that resultant vector changes its magnitude. When the molecule is vibrating like this or in this position, there will be a particular magnitude for this resultant. When it changes its position, the magnitude also changes. So the magnitude of the resultant vector changes during the vibration. So antisymmetric stretching for water molecule absorbs IR radiation. Finally, let us look at bending. What happens in bending? Now there are two dipoles here. There is a resultant dipole, and when it bends, what happens? These two hydrogens come close to each other. These two will go apart. These are the two positions. Okay, in bending, there is a change in the resultant dipole moment. So here, when it bends, the magnitude does not change, but the direction will change. When this comes to this position, this direction will change. when they go apart, this direction will change. So direction of the resultant vector will change, and so there is a change in dipole moment during vibration, and hence bending vibrations also will absorb IR radiation. So one important question, sketch the vibrations of water. Which of them are IR active? Why? Sketch the vibrations of water. These are the three vibrations. Which of them are IR active? All vibrations are IR active because of change in dipole moment during vibration. Reason for becoming IR active is change in dipole moment during vibration. So these are the two important examples, water and carbon dioxide. Now consider a diatomic molecule containing atoms of masses M1 and M2. A diatomic molecule containing atoms of masses M1 and M2, assume that the masses are connected by a frictionless spring like this. You have a mass M1 connected to a mass M2 with a frictionless spring. Now you press this and release it, it will vibrate. Okay, it will vibrate continuously and it will undergo simple harmonic motion. Since it is a frictionless spring is only an assumption. So we are assuming that it is a frictionless spring, so it will execute simple harmonic motion. Now the question is, what is the frequency of this vibration? How can you find out the frequency? It is found that the frequency is related to these masses M1 and M2, and also it is related to the strength of this bond. Okay, it is related to the strength of this bond. The frequency of vibration nu bar is equal to 1 by 2 pi c square root of k by mu. That is the formula. Nu bar is equal to 1 by 2 pi c square root of k by mu, where nu bar is the vibrational frequency in centimeter inverse, k is the force constant, mu is the reduced mass, and c is the velocity of light. So nu bar is the vibrational frequency in centimeter inverse, k is the force constant, its unit is kilogram second square or Newton per meter, both are equal. Reduced mass, mu is the reduced mass in kilogram, and c is the velocity of light. Now this mu is given as m1 m2 by m1 plus m2. For a diatomic molecule, mu is equal to m1 into m2 by m1 plus m2. And the velocity of light is taken in centimeter per second, 3 into 10 raised to 10 centimeter per second. Why it is in centimeter per second? Because vibrational frequency is in centimeter inverse. So if you take c in centimeter per second, then all the units will cancel off. When you do numerical problems, all the units will cancel off and you will get the final actual result. The M1 and M2 will normally be given in atomic mass units. They have to be converted to kilograms, so this is the conversion factor, 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kilogram. 1 AMU is equal to 1.67 to 10 raised to minus 27 kilograms. This force constant is a measure of the bond strength. Told you the frequency is related to the masses M1 and M2 and also strength of the bond. So the force constant is a measure of the bond strength. Greater the force constant, greater will be the bond strength. Greater the force constant, greater will be the bond strength. So if you take these three bonds, carbon-carbon, single bond, double bond and triple bond, then triple bond is more stronger. Strongest bond is triple bond, then you have double bond, then you have single bond. Okay. When you compare these three, triple bond has more strength. So the force constant of triple bond will be higher. Now you have this expression nu bar is equal to 1 by 2 pi c square root of k by mu. Just rearrange it, take a square of that. We get nu bar square is equal to 1 by 4 pi square c square into k by mu. From this, we can get an expression for the force constant K. K is equal to 4 pi square C square nu bar square mu. Nu bar square mu. So this is the expression for finding force constant. So quantum mechanics tells us that the energy of a vibrational level can be calculated using this expression. EV is equal to V plus half into hc nu bar. EV is the energy of the vibrational level, and V, capital V, that stands for the vibrational quantum number. H is Planck's constant, C is velocity of light, nu bar is the vibrational frequency in centimeter volts. So the vibrational quantum number V, that can have values 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So if we put V is equal to 0, we get the energy of the lowest vibrational level. If we put V is equal to 1, we get the energy of the next vibrational level. If we put V is equal to 2, you get the energy of the next vibrational level, and so on. So we can calculate the energy values of the vibrational levels. So let us do that. Let us put V is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. and let us get the expression for that. So these are the different expressions. E0 is half hc nu bar, E1 is 3 by 2 hc nu bar, E2 is 5 by 2 hc nu bar, etc. It goes on. E5 is 11 by 2 hc nu bar. So these are the energy levels for the vibrational energy levels. Now, functional groups. What is the peculiarity of this technique, IR spectroscopy or vibration spectroscopy? It is used for finding out functional groups present in organic compounds. Functional groups like OH, CH, CN, C double bond O, etc., etc. All these functional groups can be considered as small molecules. So their vibration, the vibration of these small molecules will absorb a fixed IR radiation. So these are the different frequencies. OH group stretching occurs at 3600 centimeter inverse. So this OH stretching, it absorbs a radiation, an IR radiation of frequency 3600 centimeter inverse. CH stretching, that absorbs 2900 centimeter inverse. C double bond O, it absorbs 1715 centimeter inverse. Likewise, each functional group absorbs a particular radiation. So if we find out the radiation from the spectrum, in the spectrum you will get this one. You will get these radiations, which all radiations were absorbed. From that we can find out what are the functional groups present in a compound. So let us look at different applications. The first application, identifying functional groups. Second, we can identify vibrational modes. Vibrational mode means stretching, bending, symmetric stretching, anti-symmetric stretching, bending, etc. These are all vibrational modes. You can identify that. Detecting impurities. Differentiating between inter and intramolecular hydrogen bonding. I will explain that in detail in the next slides. Predict the symmetry of a molecule. Detect isotopes. Isotopes, they will show different frequencies, different vibrational frequencies. Okay, we will be seeing that later in some numerical problems. When we do, we can see how the isotope can be detected. Calculating the bond length. These are some of the applications of vibrational spectroscopy. Now coming to the fourth application in detail. So you can note this question: what are the applications of IR spectroscopy? The direct question, 5-mark question, 1 application, 1 mark. Just write down any 5. Now this is para-hydroxyphenol and this is ortho-hydroxyphenol. In para-hydroxyphenol, you can see these dashed lines, they represent hydrogen bonding, and this OH group is hydrogen bonded to the OH group of the next molecule. That is called intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Whereas in ortho-hydroxy, you can see in the same molecule itself, these two OH groups are linked together with a weak hydrogen bond. That is called intramolecular hydrogen bonding. So two types of hydrogen bonding are there, intermolecular and intramolecular. How can we distinguish between these two using IR spectroscopy or vibrational spectroscopy? Now when there is a hydrogen bonding, the OH stretching frequency will change. Okay, or the OH stretching frequency for these two compounds, they will have a particular value. Suppose you measure the OH stretching frequency before and after dilution. So first you measure the OH stretching frequency, then you dilute the sample and again measure the OH stretching frequency. If it is intermolecular hydrogen bonding, the OH stretching will be different after dilution. OH stretching frequency changes with dilution. If it is intramolecular, the OH stretching frequency will be a constant even when it is diluted. Okay, so this is how we can differentiate between intermolecular and intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Measure the OH stretching frequency before and after dilution. If it changes with dilution, then it is intermolecular. If it does not change with dilution, then it is intramolecular. So here comes again an important question. How is IR spectroscopy used to distinguish between inter and intramolecular hydrogen bonding? If the OH stretching frequency changes with dilution, it is intermolecular hydrogen bonding. If the OH stretching frequency is a constant with dilution, it is intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Example, orthohydroxyphenol and para-hydroxyphenol. So this is how you have to write the answer to this question. Now this is a sample spectrum for this compound N-hexane. Its formula is CH3CH2 4 times CH3, linear compound. This is the spectrum. So you can get some peaks like this. Now you can look here in the x-axis. We are plotting wave number. And the y-axis we are plotting transmittance. So earlier, if you remember, in the electronic spectrum, we were plotting absorbance and the peak was upward, hill-shaped, mountain-shaped peak. This is inverted mountain. Okay, this is an inverted mountain. Now, this peak is at 2900 centimeter inverse. Then there are two peaks here. they are at 1470 and 1380 centimeter inverse respectively. Now this peak 2900, that is the CH stretching frequency, whereas these peaks, they are the bending vibrations. So all the peaks below 1500 centimeter inverse are due to bending vibrations. Above 1500 centimeter inverse, they are stretching frequencies. Now this spectrum has a peculiarity, these bending vibrations or this region below 1500 centimeter inverse, that is called the fingerprint region. So it is a fingerprint of this molecule. You can correctly identify the molecule. You can correctly identify the molecule if you study this fingerprint region. If you analyze the peaks in the fingerprint region, you can correctly find out the compound. It is a fingerprint. But it is very difficult. It is very difficult to do that. This is a simple compound, so it will be easy. This 1470 is due to CH bending vibrations of CH2 group, and 1380 is the bending of CH3 group. Okay, two types of bending. So that is very easy to find out, but in complicated molecules, it is very difficult. Now here, let us compare the vibrational spectrum with the electronic spectrum. This is the electronic spectrum, this is the vibration spectrum. Let us compare this. So what all points can you say? Now the axis, here it is absorbance and wavelength, here it is transmittance and wave number. The shape of the peaks, this is upward peak, this is downward peak, isn't it? And here you can see the peaks are broad, here the peaks are comparatively narrow. So let us look at some points of comparison. IR spectroscopy and UV visible spectroscopy. We use infrared radiations here, ultraviolet and invisible. Transition is vibrational, here it is electronic. Spectrum, transmittance versus wave number, it is absorbance versus wavelength. Unit of x-axis is centimeter inverse, whereas in other case it is nanometer inverse. Then nature of peaks, narrow band downwards, broad peaks upward. Okay. Application, functional group determination, determination of extended conjugation. So these are some points of comparison between UV visible and IR spectroscopies. Now let us take up this point, broad peaks. UV visible has broad peaks, whereas IR has narrow peaks. IR spectroscopy has narrow band. Why is it like that? Okay. So if you measure this width, let us measure this width. This width is 350 nanometers approximately. When you convert it to centimeter inverse, you get 30,000 centimeter inverse. Okay, roughly 30,000 centimeter inverse. Whereas wave IR spectrum, if you take the width, that is approximately 300 centimeter inverse. Okay, so here the width is 30,000 centimeter inverse. Here the width is only 300 centimeter inverse. The question is why? Why is it like that? So if you remember, when we took an introduction to spectroscopy, we had seen the quantum mechanical energy level diagram. We saw that from quantum mechanics, energy is quantized, and we had seen a diagram like this. Okay, this was a diagram we saw. Now if you look at this diagram, in this electronic spectrum, you can see this gap is very high, isn't it? This gap is very high. When one transition takes place, during that time you can see several vibrational transitions can take place. Okay, here only one transition is taking place, but here 1, 2, 3, 4 transitions are taking place. Okay, At the same time, rotation means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 transitions are taking place. 9 transitions are taking place. So when one electronic transition takes place, at that time several vibrational and rotational transitions are occurring. That is why the electronic spectrum appears very broad. Okay. But let us take one vibrational transition. The molecule is vibrating in this level, it moves to this level. In that time, only a very little rotations are taking place. A very little rotational transitions are taking place here. Okay, that is why the electronic spectrum is broad, whereas vibrational spectrum is comparatively narrow. So that is one important question. Why is electronic spectra broad? Electronic spectra is broad because electronic transitions are always accompanied by both vibrational and rotational transitions. Hence, the electronic spectrum appears broad. Let us move on to some important numerical problems. Okay. Some important numerical problems in vibration spectroscopy. So this is the first problem. The force constant of HCl is 483 newtons per meter. If the atomic masses of hydrogen and fluorine are 1 AMU and 35.5 AMU respectively, calculate the vibrational frequency of the molecule. So we are given the force constant, we have to find out the vibrational frequency of the molecule. So K is equal to 483, that is given, and masses of hydrogen and chlorine, they are also given. So M1 is 1 AMU, M2 is 35.5 AMU. We are asked to calculate the vibrational frequency. This is the expression. Nu bar is equal to 1 by 2 pi c square root of K by mu. K is given. Mu you have to calculate from this M1 and M2. C you already know. C is 3 into 10 raised to 10 centimeter per second. So first what we have to do, we have to calculate the value of reduced mass mu, and mu is given by the expression. So you have here 1 AMU is equal to 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kilograms. So mu is given by this expression M1 M2 by M1 plus M2. Substitute M1 and M2, 1 and 35. So you get 1 into 35 by 1 plus 35. Solve that and multiply that with 1.67 to 10 raised to minus 27. You get the reduced mass. Okay. So the value will be 1.6242 into 10 raised to minus 27 kilograms. So mu you got. Substitute in the earlier expression for nu bar. We have nu bar is equal to 1 by 2 pi c, 2 into 3.14 into 3 into 10 raised to 10, square root of k by mu. K is 483, mu is 1.6242 into 10 raised to minus 27. Solve this expression, solve it, you get the final result 2890 centimeter inverse. 2890 centimeter. So this is it is simple, but only thing, it is very tricky. You have to be a little careful. There are many 10 raised to terms. You have a 10 raised to 10 here, 10 raised to minus 27 here. You have to take a square root. So all these things are there. You have to be a little bit careful. Next numerical problem. The vibrational frequency of carbon monoxide is 2140 centimeter inverse. If the atomic masses of carbon and oxygen are 12 units and 16 units respectively, calculate the force constant of the molecule. Just the opposite of that. Opposite of the earlier one. Earlier one force constant was given, we calculated the frequency. Now the frequency is given, we have to find out the force constant. So write down what is given. Nu bar is 2140 centimeter inverse. M1 is 12, M2 is 16, C is 3 into 10 raised to 10 centimeter per second, and 1 unit is 1.67 10 raised to minus 27 kilograms. So first you calculate mu, M1 M2 by M1 plus M2, 12 into 16 by 12 plus 16, multiply that value with 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27. So you will be getting this 1.1451 into 10 raised to minus 26 kilograms. Then substitute in the expression for K. So K is equal to 4 pi square C square mu bar square mu. Be careful here. There are many squares. So mu is this one. Nu bar 2140 square. C 3 to 10 raised to 10 whole square. Pi square 4. So this is the result that you get. 1861 Newton per meter. Here also the calculations you have to be very careful. There are many 10 raised to terms. Some are 10 raised to minus, some are 10 raised to plus. They will get cancelled. Finally, this is the result that you will be getting, 1861 Newton per meter. Next problem. This is regarding the isotope. Okay. I told you one application we can detect isotopes. How is that? So we will see that after doing this problem. We can see that the vibrational frequency for C12O16 is 2140 centimeter inverse. Without finding the force constant, calculate the vibrational frequency of C13O17. It is specifically given you should not calculate the force constant. So let us take A is equal to C12O16 and B is C13O17. Then how can you write the expression for nu bar A? Nu bar A is equal to 1 by 2 pi C square root of K by mu A, and nu bar B is equal to 1 by 2 pi C square root of K by mu B. Now here the force constant depends on the bond strength, and the bond is made from electrons, whereas mass number is changed in neutrons. Okay, C12 became C13. The mass number changed. That means number of neutrons has changed. Electrons has not changed. Electrons are involved in the bonding. So for C12O16 and C13O17, the bond strength will be a constant. This is a constant. Now what to do? Divide this nu bar A by nu bar B. Force constant is independent of isotope, hence K is constant for both molecules. Divide these two, nu bar A by nu bar B. So you get mu B by mu A. Substitute the values. What is mu? So nu B, the frequency of P, that is what we want to find out. Frequency of P is equal to frequency of A into square root of mu A by mu B. Substitute the values. Nu A is 2140, frequency is 2140. Reduced mass for A is this, for B is this. Substitute those values. And when we calculate, we get 2067 centimeter inverse. So you can see here C13O17 had 2067. C12O16 has 2140. The vibrational frequency for the isotope will be different. When the isotope changes, the radiation absorbed also changes. So from that we can find out which isotope it is. So these are the three important types of numerical problems that you can get from this module. Vibrational spectrum. From this topic, not module, from this topic, vibrational